right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are joining from. My name is Fumito, and this is the Microsoft Excel beginner sessions. We are starting the second cohort. We had the first cohort last year, November, ran up until December. Now we are starting a new cohort, and I would really want to say thank you for those that have joined us again. If you've joined us again, kudos. If you're joining us for the first time, a very, very warm welcome to you. Ground rules, just a little bit of ground rules. Please try and mute your mics. Unless you have a question, then you can raise your hand and then, ask your questions. All right. So without further ado, I'm just going to move on to the plan for today. Hopefully, by the end of today, we would have talked about a few things. I'm also going to be sharing a link so that you can follow along, just in case you want to follow along. All right, just let me grab the link. Just a minute. Trying to get that. Okay. Okay, no what. Right, so this is the document we are going to be working with. Just going to share. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Yeah, please unmute and go on ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm using my phone. One of the instructions that I got was that we need a laptop. And you're talking about sharing the link. So do I log off my phone and use my laptop, or I can continue with the phone? I don't understand. That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, preferably use your laptop. Yeah, so I'm not sure you'll be able to do a lot from your phone. So I'd say, yeah, preferable to use your laptop. If you can use your phone to listen to the exercises and all. Listen on, continue listening, and then just download the worksheet on your device and on your laptop, and then actually work with that. So this is the outline for today's class. I'm not sure what. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share the link in the chat now. If someone can please download the document and share it on WhatsApp, that would be great. Yeah, because personally I may not be able to do that, but I would appreciate. So I've just shared the link. If someone can do that on my behalf, it would be good. Thank you. Yeah, please confirm you can see the link. Anyone? Has anyone gotten the link? Anybody?
Sharing the link on this avenue on WhatsApp.
The what? No, I dropped it on the chat.
On WhatsApp.
On the chat, on the group, on the meeting chat link. So that's where the link is. I just dropped it on the meeting chat link. So you can just go on ahead. And download it Okay, so just to cover what we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be looking at Microsoft Excel interface, walking through workbooks and worksheets, understanding them between cells, rows, and columns, creating, delete, and renaming worksheets and workbooks, freezing panes, and then formatting, autofill, and flash fill. I really hope that the time would afford us the opportunity to do all these, in all honesty. I really hope the time will afford us to do that. But yeah, however we can go, like however what's it called, far we can go, see about that. All right. Just a second, trying to. Yeah, so the first bit is the interface. For you to understand how Excel works really, really well, it's always a good idea to know what Excel looks like. So I'm going to share in this my presentation some basic things about Excel, how Excel is organized in terms of the user interface, right? And at the top of the hierarchy for Microsoft Excel is what is called the ribbon. Yeah, so as you can see, I've done a little snapshot there on the screen that shows my someone's hand is raised up again.
Okay, so I don't know if it's just me, but your screen has not changed. I'm still
My
seeing
screen has not changed.
yeah, I
What's
don't know if it's just
showing?
me.
What's currently showing?
Basically, it was just your profile that was not there.
Screen, screen. See now? What's showing now?
It hasn't popped up yet. It's just showing screen is
Showing
being
on
shared.
my phone.
Yeah.
It's showing here. It's showing ribbon. Excel is operated.
Ribbon. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show. That's
Okay,
what
it's
it
up
should be
now.
showing.
It's up now.
Okay. All right. So as I was saying, the ribbon is the on top of the hierarchy for Microsoft Excel is the ribbon. And then I'm going to switch to the Excel workbook. So can you see this Excel on my screen? The Excel workbook. Is this still the PowerPoint showing?
It's still showing ribbon.
Is this showing the PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's still showing ribbon. Excel is operated using ribbon. Yeah, that's what it's showing.
Uh-oh. Let me reshare again. Okay. Yeah. Is this still showing? Is this showing the Excel workbook now?
No, it's showing still showing ribbon. I don't know about others, but my phone
Ribbon.
is still showing ribbon.
How about now?
Same thing.
Toyo, are you here? Please, can you
Hello.
confirm what you can see on your screen?
So right now it's just everyone's profile that's showing up.
It's still my profile.
Like
Everyone's
everyone's profile. Could it be a network issue?
I think so.
Maybe. Can you what's showing now?
Still
It's
everyone's
still everyone's
profile.
profile.
What's the showing, please? Let me know because I don't understand why people are saying showing. What I want to show is this Excel workbook. What's this? Okay. Toyo, what's showing, please? Can you?
So your screen is being shared, but it hasn't popped up yet.
That's strange. Oh.
But on
Let me
your end,
try
it's
and
showing,
switch
Abby.
my network. Yeah, it's showing that it's sharing. Let me try and switch networks, please. Just a minute.
Okay, try and switch network. Let's see.
Switch from- What's showing up? Is this? Please, sorry. Let me share my screen. Can you hear me? First off.
you.
I can hear you.
Yes, hearing you clearly. Okay, it's showing.
Showing
What
the
is showing is
Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, your screen is up now.
Okay,
Your
my
screen is up.
Excel spreadsheet, right? All right.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. So I think it was the network I was using. Sorry for that. That's taking us quite some time. Yes. So I was talking about the Excel interface earlier, and if you look at the screen, you'd see this part, this top part of the software. Now, depending on what version of Excel you are using, this will look totally different. You see this part right from this file up until follow, like where you have this tile here. It's called the ribbon. So that's where different tabs are housed. So if you now look inside the ribbon, you would see some menus. Menus are called tabs. So you see file, you see home, you see insert, you see draw. Each of these is known as a tab in Microsoft Excel. Now, under each individual tab, you now see that there are groups. So you see under each tab, you see a collection of menus again called groups. So now here you see, for instance, you see clipboard. So this group here, before this line, is called the clipboard group. Here you have the font group. Here you have the alignment group. If you go to, let's say I want to go to the data tab, for instance, you see that data tab has its own group too. You see get and transform data, this is a group. Queries and connections, this is another group. And so on and so forth. Now, depending on what version of Excel you are using, you might not have everything here, depending on also, because some of these things are not there by default, you have to go and activate them on your own. So yeah, if you are not seeing some of these things, there's no reason to panic. Now, under each group, you now have commands. Commands are the powerhouse for Microsoft Excel. So take, for instance, in the first group here, clipboard, you have paste. Paste allows you to paste. You have cut command, you have copy, you have format painter. Then within the fonts group, you have the font, the actual font command, where you select the font you want to use for your worksheet or workbook, as the case may be, and so on and so forth. Can I get a thumbs up if you are following me? So you can just using the yeah. All right, thank you very much. So that's that about with the Microsoft Excel interface. Now, because there are so many of these things here, you don't really need to know everything. You just need to understand the things you want to do and then work with that. Once you understand the interface, the next thing that is on this agenda is worksheets and workbooks. So what is the difference between a worksheet and a workbook? Now, if you see this file that I have open here, is called a workbook, right? I see someone's hand is raised. Sammy, yes, please go ahead and ask your question. Sammy, are you there? Okay, I think the answer has been dropped. So, as I was saying, this file is called a workbook, right? Book, meaning something that you use for like the normal book. But basically, the reason this is called a workbook is because it's something you work with, right? And then within individual workbooks, you can have several hundred worksheets. So if you see here, currently we have just 2. There is a worksheet called course outline, which I'm currently running through. And then there is another sheet called flash fill, which we are going to get to. Hopefully we are going to get to today. So workbooks are basically a collection of different worksheets. That's just the difference between the two. Worksheets, a workbook can contain several hundreds. So like I've worked with Excel workbooks that have more than 100 worksheets, right? You might be wondering, what do you need 100 worksheets in one workbook for? As you grow and understand better how Excel works, you understand that sometimes you are using one workbook to manage an entire project, and then the project has several components, and then you create one worksheet for each component of that project. So that's why sometimes you can have a workbook that has hundreds of worksheets. But yeah, that's just the idea. You don't have to bother yourself so much. Once you know the difference between the two, yes, you are good to go. So the next thing is to talk about what really makes Excel tick: cells, rows, and columns. So now I'm going to move to the next worksheet, which is called flash fill, right? And in this worksheet, you can see that my cursor is currently on a cell. So a cell is an individual element of a spreadsheet. That's what a cell is. So if you see where I've put my cursor now, the cell has changed. Now, you might notice that with each movement of my cursor, this here changes, right? When I'm here, you see A1. When I move down, you see A2. When I move down, you see A3. When I move to my right, you see B3. When I move to my right further, you see C3. So now you see that when you move from left to right, the first part of the cell name changes. That first part is called the column. So if you look at the top of the spreadsheet now, you see A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. Then if you look from top to bottom, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now you see that each cell is the intersection between the column and the row, meaning that when I'm here, I'm on column A. Column, the easy way I understand this, or how I managed to remember, how I try not to confuse them, is to think of a pillar. If you live in a city that has big buildings, there are pillars in front. Those pillars are usually called columns, right? So it helps me think that, okay, a column runs from top to bottom, meaning that it goes like this. And that's what the same idea is what obtains in Excel. So it goes from top to bottom. That's the column. But then in terms of row, it goes from left to right. So it's this way. Now, the intersection between the column and the row gives a cell. And then a cell is uniquely identified by that address called the intersection between the column and the row. So for this one now, you see A1, that's column A, row 1. When I move down, I'm still on column A, but now I've moved to row 2. When I move down again, I've moved from column, I'm still on column A, but then I moved to row 3. If I move right, now I have moved from column A to column B. You see that the address has changed to B1. And then as you move on or move down, move right or move down, you see that this keeps changing. Everything you are going to be doing in Excel will boil down to your understanding of this behavior columns and row. And then I've moved to the end of my Excel spreadsheet. I moved to the last cell. You would see that the number here is 1,448,576. This basically shows that Excel has 1,408,576 rows. Then if you see the right, the same way with the column, XFD, the same idea with the column is the same. This also means 1,048,576. So this is basically telling you that an Excel spreadsheet is it's a matrix, sort of, right? It's a matrix of 1 million, about 1 million rows and 1 million columns. And then anything you can do within that period, Excel is able to undo it for you. Any questions at this point? Before we move on, is that understood?
Yes, sorry. Good afternoon. So how do I go back to
Yes.
row 1, column 1? Because I'm at the end of the sheet now. I'm still even going. It's not even. It's still moving. So how do I go back to row 1, column 1?
Yeah. Thanks so much for that question. So there's a trick with moving very fast in Excel. If you want to move to the end of your spreadsheet, there are three keys you need to depress. So Control, Shift, and then your arrow keys. They are basically used for navigating. So I'm going to show you the different ways they work. Now you see that for this particular sheet, I have tables of data. So there is class 1, which is a separate table. There's class 2, which is a separate table. There's, and so on and so forth. So if I want to move from the top of class 1 table and move to the end, I just need to click and press Control and use the down button. So you can see that immediately I did that, the cursor moved straight to the end. If I want to move right, I'll use Control and press the right key, right? Now, if I want to select everything, I'll use Control Shift and then the arrow button. So now you see that it has selected the entire of table 1. That's class 1 table. By pressing Shift, I've selected everything. But the basic thing is you use Control, use either a combination of Control, Shift, and your arrow keys. They allow you navigate. So you can either navigate down, navigate right, navigate left, or navigate to the top. If the same way now from row 1 here, I can move to row 1 million by just pressing Control and the down key. So it takes me to the last part. But if there was data, it will take me to the last cell that has data. I don't know if that makes sense. So when I was on cell A1, I press Control down key, it takes me to cell A11. That's because that is the last cell containing data. But if I'm on G1, for instance, because there's no data here, if I press Control and then I press the arrow key, it takes me to the very, very last cell in that column. Exactly. I think it was Francis that asked that question.
Clear. It's clear.
All right. Yeah. So creating, deleting, renaming worksheets. If I want to create a new worksheet here, you see a plus sign. So all I need to do is just put tests. Depress this button plus, and then I can put test sheet. I can also create a new sheet from a current sheet, right? if I want to make that current sheet like a template. So let's say that I've been doing something in this particular sheet and I want to duplicate it. I can also create a new sheet using this move or copy, right? Then creating a copy. So if I create a copy of this now and I press OK, you would see that it creates a copy of that sheet. So that's still a way of creating a worksheet. So you can use copy or move. The interesting thing is I don't even have to create this copy that I've created in this particular workbook. I can create it in another different book as long as that workbook is also open. So if I click on the same move or copy, you see here there's an option that says to book. So if I have other books open, I can select them and then create them in that particular book. Yeah, so to delete a sheet that I'm no longer using, all I need to do is just right click and then delete. There's also the option to rename. So rename is to just also right click and then so just click on rename. Then to delete. So now you see there's a warning, Excel will permanently delete this sheet. Do you want to continue? Yes. So that's how to create, that's how to delete, that's how to rename workbooks. The next thing is freezing. What does freezing mean? So imagine that, let me delete this. Now imagine that I have a cell, I have a data, this is a data sheet that has 100 or 120 data sets, right? So let me just do something. Don't worry about what I've just done. So you can imagine I have a data set that is that has about 1,000 data sets, right? And then I'm moving. As I'm moving, you see that I can no longer see the first column. So let's say your data set, the same way it contains 1,000 columns, it contains 1,000 rows. So let's say there are other details here, age, address, and so on and so forth. As I move, you will see that these things, they leave the view. So I'm no longer able to see what is on that part of the Excel spreadsheet. So Excel has a functionality that allows me to freeze a part of my workbook or my worksheet. So basically what that means is that I'm able to see the top while I'm still using the workbook, and that's called freezing a pane. So now let's say, for instance, I want to keep this first column. Let me put this as serial number. Right? Let's say I want to keep this, my first column, visible at all times. I don't want this first column to leave my view. And the same way, I don't want the first row to leave my view. There's a hack. Under the view tab, you would see in the Windows group, there's a freeze panes command. Right? What that does, it allows you to freeze your Excel spreadsheet, some part of it anyways. Now there are three options. You can either freeze pane, freeze the top row, freeze the top column. So now let me freeze top row. Basically what this does is that you can see as I scroll up or down, the first column remains in view, and that has a lot of implications when you are working with a lot of data. Like, you would have no idea how this can help you. The same way, I can decide I want to freeze the first column, just the first column. So now when I move right, that first column stays in view. Now, I can also decide that I want to freeze a certain amount of row and column. So maybe I want to freeze first 2 rows and first 2 columns. So what I will do is that I will put my cursor below or just immediately after where I want to freeze. So I want to freeze first 2 rows and first 2 columns. So I'm going to put it on row 3 and column 3, and then I will use freeze pane. So wherever you click on freeze panes, wherever your cursor is, it keeps the rest of it in view. So you can see now that the first 2 rows and the first 2 columns are kept in view. But by default, or most of the time, you typically just want to keep row 1 and column 1 in view. So so you see freeze panes. So here you can now have you can keep all this in view, and then you can continue your work as needed. Yeah. Any questions on freezing? If you're not used to that, don't worry, you get used to it, right? It does take a while, but yeah, you can get used to it. You get used to it with time eventually. Yes, you don't guess it, please. Your question. Your question, yeah, you raised your hand.
Please, yeah, please, sir, can I just take it over again? The freezing of paint.
Freezing of paint, okay. So freezing paint allows you to keep a part of your worksheet or workbook or worksheet typically, because you usually work in one worksheet per time. You can't work in 2 worksheets together at the same time. It helps you keep a part of your worksheet on your view, such that does not leave the view. So I'm going to first of all unfreeze this pane, and then I would try to scroll up. So you see that as I scroll up, I can no longer see row 1, and then as I scroll right, I can no longer see column 1. But more often than not, when you are working in a worksheet, you want to keep maybe your title bar, which is usually the first, or your header, which is usually the first column or the first row, sorry. The first row on your data sheet most time is the header row. So you always want to keep it in view. Excel allows you to do that seamlessly by using the freeze pane command. So if you click on freeze top row, what it does is it freezes that row for you, so that as you scroll through your data, you can see what each column is representing. So as I'm scrolling now, okay, I can say that, oh, column 1 is serial number, column 2 is name, column 3 is first name, and so on and so forth. In the same way, sometimes your data is the other way around, and then you want your column or your first column is a sort of identifier. You want to use it to identify something. So you want to use freeze first column. So that way you can tell, okay, this column is talking to this particular. So now you can see that as I move right, column 1 stays in view, right? So that's freeze column. But then most of the time, you are not interested in just freezing one row or one column. You want to freeze a number of rows and a number of columns. How do you do that? Instead of using the freeze row or freeze column, what you do is that you place your cursor on just below the points of intersection. So let's say, for instance, I want to freeze column 1 and row 1. So I'll put it on row 2, column 2, and then use freeze panes and then freeze panes. So that way it keeps this row frozen and then keeps this column frozen. And then as I scroll up or scroll down, both of them remain in my view. Yeah. Is that clear?
Thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome. So the next thing is now basic data entry and formatting. Data entry is more or less as easy as just typing. So I'm going to start filling up these data sets. I'm going to be using our names, just going to be, sorry, I'm going to be typing our names, just as it is on the, what is it called? The attendance. So please permit me to do that. Fyong, this one does not have the second name. Sunday Peter, Eagles and Greens. So you can see basically what I'm doing here is called data entry. Just typing names. It's called data entry. So it's just to type. And then once you are done typing, you type enter. That's myself. Yeah, we have a couple of names here. In terms of formatting, so because the next thing is basically self-formatting, there is a font group. There's a font group that you basically use for formatting. Now, depending on what you are trying to achieve in Excel, you can try your hands around this. There's no hard and fast rule. You might, for instance, let's say I don't want my names to be in black. I want them. So you see under these fonts, there is a font color command, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this font color to yellow. Although that's not very, but basically just for illustration purposes. So now I've changed the font color. I can change the fill. Fill basically means background, right? So now clicking on this, you can see that are formatted. Basically, this is what formatting is all about. Now, there are so many things you can do with formatting, like so many things. I'm looking for colors that will contrast really well. Okay. Yeah, so just for illustration, this is not best practice. Please don't use this type of color in your designs. Yeah, but I'm just showing you what's possible. Now, it's also possible that you want some sort of borders on your spreadsheet. So let's say I want to put borders on my, let me just reset this. Let me reset this. So let's say I want to put borders on my data. You can put borders by just clicking on the border, and then it allows you customize. So you can see there's so many ways to customize your borders. All borders. Let me put thick borders. I can put thick outside borders. So you see now that the outside looks thick. So those are basic formatting options you can put on your spreadsheets. There is also a way to apply formatting automatically, which is called conditional formatting. But yeah, we'll get to that at a much later time. I think it's under conditional formatting somewhere here. So you will talk about conditional formatting in such a way that how do you make Excel appear a certain way based on a certain condition, right? So it's possible in Excel for you to automate your formatting. So the next thing here is something known as autofilling and flash filling, right? Flash filling for quick data entry or autofilling basically means you have a lot of things to do, and then you allow Excel do some of it for you. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to delete this because I used the formula to populate this in the first place. So let's say I want to type the number 1 to whatever, wherever my data ends. So Excel allows you to do what is called auto-filling or flash filling. So now, if you see, when I highlighted, or all I need to do is just give it a sort of what's the word I'm using now? I need to just give Excel a guide or a consistent pattern. Yes, a pattern. That's basically all Excel needs for it to be able to do what is called auto-filling or flash filling. Now, you can see number 1, number 2. At this bottom here, at this bottom right corner, there is a small dot that is the autofill command. So all I need to do is just place my cursor and then double click on it. Now you would see that Excel has autofilled this data set for me. That it has autofilled up to number 10. And the reason it did that is because I only have 10 points of data here. Excel has done autofilling for me. With flash fill, it's the same idea. What I'm going to do now is, say I have there's an attendance list. I went for a workshop, and then maybe I'm the secretary, and then there's an attendance list of 1,000 people that has already been filled, right? Like this. And then for our data entry, or for our data best practices, we always have to separate first name and last name, right? Instead of me doing this manually and doing, I have to now start typing this manually. This, all the way for 1,000 people. What happens is Excel you can see, do what is called a flash fill, right? Now you will see that it has already suggested based on some of the things. Now, but this is not what I want. So what I want to do is, I want to go on and do, so because I've done tab now, it auto fills that for me. So now I want to do Sunday. Now, under my data, there is something called flash fill. When I click on that, you can see it automatically, based on this trend, the same way I can do this for this and do flash fill, it's going to automatically fill it for you. Now, the reason this one is repeating is because it's only, it's only a first name. So yeah, I don't necessarily need this, but you can see the idea. It allows you to do a lot of automating instead of using manual typing. And this has a significant time-saving benefit when it comes to data work, so that you need it a lot of the time for your data analysis work. Questions? Any questions? I see we are almost, time is almost on us, but yeah, I'm starting a little late, so we can just take a few more minutes after and just. Any question at this point on flash fill or any other thing we've talked about so far? Yes, Francis. I can hear you if you are speaking.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
I just want to ask.
I can't hear you again.
Talked about highlighting, which is changing the colors, on each of the cells. Then you also talked about We talked about what's it called? This
And hear you.
the serial number thing. So I want to ask, is it possible names of the people who are in attendance now, and you want to separate the surname and the last name? Is there a function in Excel that can allow you to do that, or you type it manually?
I didn't get that. Sorry, your question is not very.
So if you can you hear me? My network is a bit shaky, so it's going to be a problem. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's breaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you just type? Just type. Someone else get what you were trying to say? Maybe. Okay, I'm going to continue. Toyo, you have something? Guest, yeah, please, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yes, hi.
Yes,
Can you
hi. Can you please
repeat on the
repeat on the
automatic fill
automatic fill
of first name and last name?
first name and last name?
Okay, the flash fill. Okay, so flash fill allows you create new columns based on a pattern in a previous column. It's very similar to autofill. As a matter of fact, you can sometimes just interchange their usage. Although there's a very slight difference between the two. So flash fill allows you to. So most of the time when you are talking about flash fill, right, what you are doing is you are separating something, right, based on a pattern, or you are combining something based on a pattern, right? So let's see. Where's my cursor now? So let's say, for instance, like I said before, I just attended the workshop. There were over 100 people, and their names are just combined. But then for data storage, I'm required to separate their names. So what I can use is the flash fill, which allows me just give Excel an idea of what it needs to do, right? Once I've done that, I just need to use the flash key. Now you can see it has already given an idea. So once I've given it this example, I just need to come to the data tab and then click on flash fill. Sorry guys, let me check who's trying to call. Sorry. So now, using the flash fill, it has automatically filled up, right, the names based on the pattern. With autofill, what it does is that it looks at some cells and then tries to guess the next. And that is what happens here. So I've put 1 and 2, but I want to guess the remaining. And then just double clicking on that, it autofills it for me. This is different, slightly different from flash fill, even though you can use them interchangeably for this. But the idea is that in one, there is no data. It just sees a trend, right? And then tries to guess what's coming. But in the other, there is all the data. All you are just doing is you are doing some sort of manipulation to that data, and then Excel is just helping you do it instead of you to do it manually. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so finally today we are supposed to look at some basic operations, because this is where Excel really shines. Excel is a crunching software. I make you to use that word. So let's look at basic operators in Microsoft Excel. The basic operators are just basically equal to times minus divided by, right? They allow you to perform calculations. Allows you to perform calculations, mathematical calculations in Microsoft Excel. Equals to is the formula operator. Basically, what that means is if you use an equal to, what you are telling Excel is that the next thing I want you to do is to either do a calculation or use the formula. So let's say I want to do equals to 5 plus 5, and I press enter. You can see Excel knows that, okay, what I want you to do here now is to, whatever it is that is after that equal to, calculate it. So it has done an addition for me here. So if I want to do times, I can do the same thing. So let me do equals to, so let me do here, equals to 5 plus 5. 10. So let me do equals to 5 multiplied by 5. So 5 minus 5 is 0. Then 5 divided by 5. So 1. So you can see here. Okay, so basically, these are the basic operators in Microsoft Excel, and they do exactly what they mean. Plus is for addition, times is for multiplication, minus is for subtraction, slash is for division. And then because a lot of the things you are going to be doing will be building on these 5 operators. But then of course, we are not going to be using them like this, because there are functions or there are formulas that you cannot put in and then use those to do your calculations. Yeah, I think we can say it's a good point to say, oh, we've covered everything we were supposed to cover today. Yeah, we looked at introduction to the Excel interface, though we had a bit of technical challenge at the beginning, but at least we managed to cover everything. We looked at navigating workbooks and worksheets. We looked at understanding. So what was the difference between the two? We looked at that. We saw how we can see how you can move between cells, the difference between a row and a column. We created worksheets, deleted, renamed. We looked at freezing panes. We looked at basic data entry and formatting, colors, fonts, borders. We looked at all that. then autofill and flash fill for data entry, and then basic operators. Any questions? Any questions? The next class we are going to be digging deep. Like this period, we are not slow. We are going straight to data visualization. So talking about basic functions, and then we are going to be doing some visualization and looking at cell references, which is one of the most confusing parts of Excel for a lot of people. There are so many people that always, say, "Oh, I don't understand this referencing thing. How does it work?" So yeah, we'll touch on that in the next class. Thank you very much for your time, for your attention. If you have any questions, you can feel free to drop them on the group. I'll be available. The other instructor is also here. He will be available to answer to your questions. This class is recorded, so hopefully at the end I would look at it. If it's not too bad, upload it to the YouTube channel so that I always go over it and have it for your use. Thank you very much. Any questions here?